When your coffee's so good, you could use it as mouthwash. That's the objective. Welcome to episode 5 of Big Brown Dad, and thank you for all those who are joining us in replay mode. We appreciate your support. As you know, Big Brown Dad is a blog that talks about all the humor related to raising kids, especially in the SGV and especially as a Latino parent, especially as a dad, hence Big Brown Dad. And Coffee with Big Brown Dad every Saturday morning, 5:15 to 5:30. As you can tell, I'm getting louder with each episode. That means my wife's a huge fan. Oh, my kids love it. They're right there watching right here. 15 minutes every Saturday. This is what we do. We discuss coffee. We serve up some benedictions, and we call randomized benediction, which is the first 3 folks who join us live every Saturday. I open up the Bible at random, pick a verse, and then attempt to apply it to your life. And it works all the time because that's how we roll. We're liberal in our application of hermeneutic principles, as almost everyone is, as it turns out. So we're gonna move ahead, and as soon as the first 3 folks join us, we're gonna get to the blessings. The first 4 episodes we produced were awesome. The first episode, of course, we dealt with the perennial question, should I buy my kid Air Jordans? Our second episode dealt with how to deal with contractors who are trying to give you a quote and trying to sneak up into your crib. And we had some advice on how to deal with that. Episode 3 took place in Corpus Christi, live from a hotel room. That was jamming, fly, and with each episode, we're getting bigger. Of course, not without the support of our advertisers. And right off top, we want to give a shout out to Key of D. Key of D is David Gomez, who teaches talentless folks like maybe some of you how to play guitar. In a couple of hours, you'll be out of this, or not. But you need to practice. Ultimately, nothing's easy, nothing's free. So Key of D, shout out. Last episode, we dealt with the also important question of whether or not dads should be wearing face lotion. And as it turns out, this week, ran out of face lotion. I'll need to re-up, and I just haven't decided on a brand. I'm open. I got 1 or 2 suggestions. My man Oscar Valdez from San Antonio suggested a brand that looked like it was being sold at Bed Bath & Beyond. So just on GP, sorry, I'm not gonna mess with it. It can be a little too floral. Speaking of which, every episode we like to discuss coffee. Shout out Jennifer. We're gonna get your benediction rocking right now. Coffee I'm drinking this morning is from Augie's Coffee Roaster out here in the IE. They're in Claremont. Let's see. And Jennifer, let's see what we have here for you. Jennifer is in Arizona and maybe still in Yuma. Shout out all the homies in Yuma, Arizona, holding it down. Have been for a long time. Peace to the gods. This is for Jennifer. Ooh. Okay, we want New Testament, right? Oh, let's see. John chapter 14. Ooh, there's a John chapter 14. We already know John chapter 14, 6 is a popular verse. I guess I got to read up to 6. Ooh, do not let your hearts be troubled. Trust in God. Trust also in me. In my Father's house are many rooms. If it were not so, I would have told you. I'm going there to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come back and take you to be with me, that you also may be where I am. You know the way to the place where I am going. Thomas said to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going. So how can we know the way? Jesus answered, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really knew me, as you would know my Father as well. If you really knew me, you would know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. Philip said, Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us. Jesus answered, don't you know me, Philip, even after I have been among you for such a long time? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. Wow, this is like really theologically dense. But even in these 9 verses, there's a lot of room to run in different directions theologically with this. Of course, 14:6, we have what appears to be like an exclusive claim where Jesus is saying that he is the only way to know the Father. So of course, when you're looking at the religious landscape, you're looking at Christianity. Christianity makes this exclusive claim about access to the Father. At least this verse can be interpreted in that way. And then later in verse 9, this verse can generate a lot of confusion, especially for those who are trying to hold to a Trinitarian doctrine, because we see here Jesus answered, "Don't you know me, Philip, even after I've been among you for such a long time? Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me?" So there's a lot of like grammar there that probably needs parsing to determine whether there are two distinct individuals being referenced or not. But yeah, man. But that's kaboom, as they say. Peace to Jennifer. Blessings be to you. Shout out to the unofficial official sponsor of the Big Brown Dad Coffee with Big Brown Dad show, Kango. So I just want to talk a little bit about coffee, and then I'll get to our question of the episode. As we have just entered the Lenten season, I know a lot of you folks are concerned about your souls, and I want to really just answer the question whether or not you're going to hell. And I think I have some answers for you, so you're not going to want to miss this. Before that, though, I was just really taking a look at these two coffees. So first, the coffee I want to review today is Augie's Coffees Roasters. From Augie's. Augie has a shop in Claremont, in the Claremont Village. This bag was $17. It's 12 ounces, Ethiopian Uraga. It says the flavor notes are black tea, nectarine, and orange, which, again, if you drink coffee and have been drinking coffee for a long time, but you've been drinking that bullshit, you're like, how could coffee taste like that? Well, first, stop putting the milk and the sugar in it. Let's start there. Second, let's start paying closer attention to the type of beans you're getting. One thing you'll note here is a roast date. This was roasted on 2/28, and then they also have a note in the bag that this should be used within 2 weeks. So according to that logic, you're probably going to go through at least 2 bags a month if you want to keep your beans fresh. That's about $40. 2 bags a month. I don't think that's not gonna get you a cup a day, though. I don't know how you drink or how big your cups are. They should be about 6 to 8 ounces. But what I was really noting was the difference between, what I really like about coffee, what I'm really bugging off of, just as like an old school hip hop head, is like the way the branding is going down with coffee and the different design elements going into the packaging. I see a lot of fresh shit out there in the coffee world, probably because a lot of hipsters are involved with this, and so they got an eye, they got an aesthetic. Like I like this design. This is a chromatic keynote. I like the white, black, gray because I'm a Jordan fan. It reminds me of old school Jordans. This feels a little more like of the earth, more like connected, more like, I don't know, a little more econo even. These are like some Converse, but the coffee is legit, so we talk a little bit about that. But I like what Chromatic's doing here, although there's not a lot of information on this bag. They don't let us know much about the origin, so that's not cool. This I like. There's a whole bunch of information. There's some styling, but I'd rather go with a white bag. That's just me. Bubby Scherzer in the house. This is how we do it, Liz. Peace to you. You want the Old Testament? New? Does it matter? Okay, boom. Doesn't matter. Ecclesiastes. Oh my God. How is it that we're turning to all these classic verses today? Oh, it must be the title of today's episode. Are you going to hell? I'm going to help you answer that. I'm just going to answer it for you. Simple and plain. But we just turned to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. If you had a guitar, and if David Gomez was your teacher, you might even play to this. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. This is kind of creepy. I don't want this. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. What does the worker gain from his toil? I have seen the burden God has laid on man. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Some things you just don't embellish on. You just step the fuck back, and that's what basically I'm doing there. I read it, let it echo from my mouth down Interstate 5, or up Interstate 5 all the way to you, Liz, Bubby. Connect Bubby, 1994 Oxy Connect gang. Met her my first year at Oxy. Peace, stay true. And I want to eat some of your food because I've seen you killing it on the social tip. And let's eat. There's one more blessing hanging in the air for one of you guys. So who's gonna enter the benediction zone? Still to be determined. But I really wanted to get into today's question. I think another person might have joined us. If so, go ahead and identify yourself. We're ready to give you a blessing, a benediction. Say your name, say your name. My man JP, Jonathan Porter, citizen name, first person I. I might even know an older name than that, but let me see if I can remember. But bro, peace and blessings to you. Thank you for joining. You've actually are the recipient of the third and final benediction of this episode. Right before we dive into the pressing question of the day, are you going to hell? I have the answer. Stick around for it. Johnny, this is for you, man. I can't even tell you the first verse, John 14:6, or work with me. The second verse, we pulled up Ecclesiastes 3. I can't tell you, bro. Right now, we might just hit. What are we gonna do here? Oh, Sydney Connect gang. Acts 21. Acts 21. After we had torn ourselves away from them, we put out to sea and sailed straight. You know why this is dope with Acts? Because Acts is basically a crew of believers wrecking shop. And it's just the stories of a crew wrecking shop. So I know Johnny rocks with the crew. He's one of the crewiest crew homies there is. So somehow we're going to find some meaning in this. The next day we went to Rhodes and there from Patara. We found a ship crossing over to Phoenicia, went on board and set sail. After sighting Cyprus and passing to the south of it, we sailed on to Syria. Wow. We landed at Tyre, where our ships were unloaded its cargo. Finding the disciples there, we stayed with them 7 days. Through the Spirit, they urged Paul not to go to Jerusalem. But when our time was up, we left and continued on our way. All the disciples and their wives and children accompanied us out of the city, and there on the beach, we knelt to pray. After saying goodbye to each other, we went aboard the ship, and they returned home. Went to the beach to kneel to pray. That's what I'm taking from that, man. Actually, I need some time. We all need some time on the beach to kneel and pray. Some meditation, some reflection, something about the water. Having spent, 3 months living on a Oaxacan beach. Shoutout Zipolite. The water has a way of working on your psyche and your soul. So let's all get to the beach and pray. You're landlocked, G. You're in Arizona. Don't go to Hoover Dam, though. Come out west. Let's kick it. Let's go to the beach. We could do that. All right, man. Now, I only have a couple minutes. We need to settle this question. It's the Lenten season. I've decided personally, it's Lent. Roman Catholics are obviously familiar with this. Some of you who pay attention are obviously familiar with this, and some of you may not know what it is, and I'm not going to go into our attempt to break this down in depth, but what I will suggest is that there are basically 4 categories that I've seen people fall into as it relates to their approach or response to Lent. It seems to me people fall into 4 categories as it relates to Lent. 1, they're either hell yes, and they're down with it. 2, they're yes, or they're a no. And finally, hell no. So they're either hell yes, yes, no, or hell no. Those of you who are hell yes, you guys rock with the Catholic Church, keep it rocking, you participate in that community, and you adhere and you follow the rules. And if you have questions about what you should and shouldn't be eating and how you should be participating as a community, all that's online. You can get those questions answered and you can rock with it. I support you doing what you do. If you're in the yes camp, this is actually the camp that I fall in. I participate. I don't adhere to the theological or metaphysical commitments, but I do see value in the practice. And in fact, this Lenten season, I'm giving up meat and sweets because I'm a rhymer and it has to rhyme. So it hasn't been easy, which is why I started to rock this talisman for the 40 days. I'm going to use this to remind me to avoid indulging in fake sweet shit. So, and meat. And it's been a couple days. It hasn't been too tough, but I anticipate it getting tougher, but we can rock out. Now, those of you who are in the third camp, no, I don't participate in that. That's cool. You just don't want to get down with it. Maybe you don't see any value in it, and you don't have to see any value in it. You probably participate in this type of activity in other ways throughout the year. This type of activity being restricting the consumption or participation in certain activities that you enjoy in order to learn some kind of lessons that can only be learned through restriction. There's another component to this, which is probably participation. So this Lenten season, you shouldn't only be restricting things, but you should be actively engaging in stuff that you want to do because you think it'll make you a better person in the end. And then finally, the fourth category, those people who are like, hell no, that's the dumbest shit I've ever seen, heard, done. Why you guys do that shit? Stupid. For you, are you going to hell? Well, probably. I mean, I don't know, but the hate is not going to help. And so you had questions. I have answers. Every Saturday morning, 15 minutes. You're going to get the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, a little bit of coffee, and some product reviews. Shout out to our sponsors, ABGTV. Now, some of you guys have cable, satellite, paying $80, $90, $100, $150, $200 a month for your service. And did you know that there's modified Fire Sticks and Fire TVs? ABGTV has them, guaranteed for 6 months. Best price out there. I'll put the link under the show. Hit them up. And then, of course, One Hand Up. One Hand Up is an organization that trains teachers and administrators in restorative justice practices and techniques. So if you're a teacher, an administrator, you have the ability to get some training cracking. We want to get One Hand Up some work, and we want to support our advertisers. And of course, brand Marinade, who has supported our projects before with the Cozy Collection. Big up to brandmarinade.com. And thank you for joining us this week. We'll see you again next week. Please.